Hello world, and welcome to Web Dev Frontiers. My name is Tamas, and I'm here to share my experience with you in web technologies. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a really important topic that should matter for every single web developer out there, and that topic is accessibility. So in today's video, I'm going to show you a couple of features inside Chrome DevTools that should allow you to check whether a particular website that you're working on is accessible or not. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and jump straight in. Here I have some HTML and some CSS for you, and actually we're not going to spend a lot of time here because the style and the HTML doesn't really matter. What matters is how this website looks like inside the Chrome browser. So let's take a look at that right now. And this is how the site looks like. And first you may think that there's nothing that stands out here. However, I'm going to show you a couple of tools and you will see that some parts of this HTML page are going to look very different with people who struggle with Protanopia, for example. So let's open up Chrome DevTools. And once that's open, I would like you to click on the three dots, select More Tools, and go down to the rendering section. And that opens a new panel, which you can see here. And there are a lot of great options that are available for you under the rendering panel. However, the options that I'm going to be looking for right now is called the Emulate Vision Deficiencies. And as you can see that there are a couple of options here: blurred vision, reduced contrast, protanopia, which basically refers to the fact that some people can't see the red color. Then there's the deuteranopia, where people can't see green, tritanopia, where people can't see blue, and then the no color option is available for us here as well. So notice we have, of course, a couple of these colors, and this is when things are going to become very interesting. So first, let's start with blurred vision. So that's just going to blur things out a little bit for us. And based on this, we can already determine that, for example, the H1 header here that says accessibility is still kind of visible. However, this text is absolutely invisible. So probably we want to work on that. Let's see what happens if we look at reduced contrast. So in this case, notice I have this header here that says reduce contrast box, and the content is just gone. We can no longer see the content in there. And if I go back to no emulation, well, there is some text, but basically the text is light gray. Its container, this round box, is somewhat of a darker gray, but still light gray. And these colors are very similar to each other. So anyone who has reduced contrast vision basically won't see the content and they won't see the box. Now, let's see what happens if we click on Protanopia as well. Well, in this case, we have this message here that says, please click on the red button to continue. Now, obviously, this is a fabricated example, and it would be very unlikely that you would say something like this. However, I've encountered sites where they use colors to enforce some sort of an action. Now, if I can't see the red color and you tell me to click on the red button to continue, well, which one is the red colored button? Is it the one on the left or is it the one on the right? Well, I don't know. And of course, there are some other options here. No green. Again, look at how these two buttons change. Again, I don't know which one is the red one, which one is the green one. And just to go back to no emulation, notice that one is actually red and the other one is green. But otherwise, I just can't see that. So these are very, very good options for you to test how your website looks like by emulating vision deficiencies. All right, so that's one thing that I wanted to show you. The other thing that I would like to show you is the styles panel. So let's close this panel out, and notice we have the styles section here, and I'm going to select this contrast box that caused us an issue. And here's the CSS class describing our box, which is called reduce contrast, and I'm going to click on color right here. And notice that this brings up this pop-up window where I see a contrast ratio of 1.64. Now I can already tell you that for text at this size, this contrast ratio is already very, very bad. And we saw it because in the emulation, the entire text just disappeared. So you can actually click on this chevron icon as well here. And now you have a bunch of values. You have a AA and a AAA value is 4.5 and 7.0. And basically both of them are sort of crossed out. You get this red circle with a single line crossed out, meaning that the contrast ratio here is just not going to cut it. And if you're wondering what the AA and AAA stands for? Well, these are recommendations from the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, and they basically specify the contrast ratio between the background color and the text color. And basically for WCAG level AA, the contrast ratio should be at least 4.5 to 1 for normal text and 3 to 1 for large text, which is essentially 18 points or larger, or 14 points or larger if it's a bold text. And for AAA, the contrast ratio should be 7 to 1 for normal text and 4.5 to 1 for large text. Now, if you're not working with accessibility a lot, then these are numbers that you probably will forget. And that's fine, because that's why we have Chrome DevTools at our disposal. So there are a couple of options that I would like to show you. First of all, if you click on these two boxes here next to the AA and the AAA lines, it's going to give you a suggested color. And if you click that, notice now you get a green check mark for that AA ratio. And if you click this box here as well, then now the AAA ratio will also give you a green checkbox. And also notice that the text also, became a lot more visible. Now you could go back to that rendering panel, emulate reduce contrast again, and then you should be able to read this text. However, the other thing that I would like to show you is the fact that on the top of this pop-up window, you see this color picker, and the color picker has these two lines. Those two lines represent the appropriate contrast ratios which you should pick. So what I mean by that, let's just refresh this page to restart this whole thing again. So click on the chevron. So I'm going to basically move my cursor around here, and you can see a couple of things happening. First of all, notice that if I move the cursor in between these two lines, then the AA contrast ratio is now fixed. And if I'm going to move the cursor under the bottom line, then the AAA contrast ratio is now going to be fixed. So this gives you sort of like a visual hint as to what the appropriate contrast ratio should be between your background and the text itself. And you can see how that looks like in this little circle here as well on the right-hand side. Now, of course, we can test this with different colors, and you can see as I change the colors, the lines for the contrast ratio would also change accordingly. So for example, if I want to have a sort of like a purplish background, then these are the values that I need to pick. So again, if I am above the top line, then my contrast ratio is bad. If I'm underneath, anywhere underneath the bottom line, then the contrast ratio is going to be correct. All right, and last but not least, I would like to show you how to actually view the accessibility tree as well. So there is an option called accessibility, or a panel called accessibility in Chrome DevTools, which basically allows you to take a look at the full page accessibility tree. And this is still in lab, so you need to enable this. And once you enable this, you need to reload the DevTools. And now if you go back to the Elements panel, notice how this little icon appeared, and you can click on this, and now you get the accessibility tree view of your website. So this basically allows you to take a look at all the accessibility features. So for example, I've added a navigation and I call that main navigation. Now, how does the accessibility tree know that this is the main navigation? Well, that's because I have added all the appropriate area labels to my HTML elements. So if you go back to the editor, notice I have the area label right here indicating that this is the main navigation, and all other places where I've added the area attributes, those would show up in the accessibility tree as well. And one last thing that I would like to show you, and that is the fact that you can run a full-blown accessibility report using DevTools, in fact using Lighthouse within DevTools itself. So I'm going to select Lighthouse from the panels, and I'm just going to go with navigation desktop, and notice there are a couple of categories that you can select to run a Lighthouse test against. So I'm not going to do performance, best practices of SEO, but I'm going to leave accessibility checked. And if I click on Analyze Page Load, this is now going to run an accessibility audit against the site that we currently have open. So we get an overall score of 95, and notice we get a warning about the contrast. And that's something that we talked about, right? So this is this paragraph here. And anything else that it thinks has some contrast issues. Okay, so it lists all the failing elements, and you can now review your website's accessibility as well. There are some additional items that you can manually check, and this is not something that Lighthouse can do. You need to make sure that you also check these. And basically every single test that the Lighthouse Accessibility Report runs will contain a link so that you can learn more about the actual tests that you need to do. And that's everything that I wanted to cover in today's video. I hope you found this to be useful. If you have examples of very good or very bad accessible websites, then please share those in the comment section. Also, if you have any questions or thoughts on accessibility, I would love to read them as well. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like, do subscribe for more such content, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, take care.